Hi everyone, I'm here in the gallery with Maryrose Cobarrubias Mendoza. I'm so happy and grateful to have Maryrose here. It has been such a delight to work with you on your project and this tremendous exhibition. Through everything, she's been amazingly patient and flexible, and I'm excited for you all to get to learn a little bit about it. So I'm gonna hand it over to Maryrose, and she's going to walk you through as if you were here with us in the gallery. So.
Hi everyone, thank you.
Let's start off by, Maryrose, why don't you tell us about this first space of the gallery and this grouping of works that you had shown previously at the other exhibition that you had with them.
Okay, well, this grouping of work in this front gallery here was created in 2017-18, and I had an exhibition over at the Hudson Jones Gallery in Cincinnati. And this actual body of work was very influenced by the political climate after 2016. I made these crayons as a reaction to that election. Actually, I made one of the crayons as a reaction to the election, and the other subsequent crayon, the darker one, happened later. But this actually comes from, the ideas for this crayon kind of come from a previous work that I did back in 2004, where I made these small crayons, these much smaller crayons that were basically talking about what references the color brown has. You know, different things that you think about when you think about brown, the color itself. And they weren't necessarily all positive things. And when the election happened, I started to revisit that my feelings about color and my emotional state about feeling marginalized. And so I thought it would be great to do the crayon again, to revisit that from 2004, but to make a new crayon, but this time one that established my commitment to being also an American.
And they also have a relationship to your body, correct? Aren't they?
It definitely does, yeah. It's the same, it's the same measurement as my height. A lot of these things are actually made like that. So, okay.
Yeah.
And if you can see, I really am interested in playing around with scale. And part of it is because I like using banal objects like Klaus Oldenburg. There's this kind of like, you are made aware of these banal objects again once you see them at a different relationship to your body, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then I think also there is a childhood aspect to what I'm doing, you know, where like when you're a kid, you know, everything is always kind of larger than you can kind of like grapple with.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I love Klaus Oldenburg, so.
I can see that actually.
Yeah.
I haven't made that connection before, but
Yeah, I know I didn't mention it before, but I'm very interested in pop too. Like pop,
Yeah.
There's pop art influences in what I do as well.
Definitely, yeah, that's very clear.
Yeah, and so then, you know.
I think that we were talking a little bit earlier about your sense of material and that kind of trompe-l'oeil effect of, you know, sometimes you use paper to be paper, like in the case of the boat and toss, or ism rather, I should call it.
Right.
Title. But sometimes you're using materials to be something else, like when we get to the other rooms, like with the paper palm tree, for example. And I think that there's something really interesting. I mean, your sense of material is really important. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you made these objects and the scale of the paper itself and how you're using that?
Well, the scale of the paper is actually 8.5 by 11 feet. So you know, part of this
Like a notebook
practicality, huh?
Just like a notebook paper.
Yeah, like a notebook paper, and also just pragmatically for me, how can I, you know, I wouldn't be able to get like 800 feet or something. So, something that's also within my means. I think I gravitate towards things that are accessible,
Right.
both practically, but also because of the idea of it being accessible. And so I drew all of these lines with colored pencil. The first couple of sheets I did, I just had like my niece help me because you know it's really long. And then later on, I had one of my students help me because it's a lot of work. So I draw the pencil lines.
It still blows my mind that you made it, that they're all hand drawn.
Yeah, so they're all like drawn by hand with rulers, of course.
Of course.
And then I do both sides. And if you look really closely, like everything is really handmade. Like that's like just a template that I use to cut it, and then I use just scissors or X-Acto knife.
Yeah.
And then after that.
But it's so perfectly to scale.
Oh yeah, I try to measure proportionally.
Yeah.
And then we folded up one sheet of paper into a boat, which you were here. It takes a little bit of time. and then that one, after I wrote on both sides with a pencil, benevolent assimilation, then I actually physically crunched it up with my body.
Is it just one sheet, 8.5 by 11?
It's one sheet of 11.5 by 11.
I actually always wanted to ask that.
Yeah, but it's written on both sides.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wish I actually documented the writing of that. I did not do that. I just kind of did it. Yeah.
You have to make another one. Later. Tell us about the chalkboard.
The chalkboard is
Can we get a little closer?
okay. The chalkboard is the second version of this work that I call study. So the first time I did it, it had a grid and it was a lot calmer, the waters, and it was just called study. Now this is like a 2 by 4 foot chalkboard. The original one is double the size, so I just shrunk this in half. And I like to have it also at this low height. It's just to refer to childhood and also my scale as well. And it refers to those drawings in the other room that are at my body scale. And I'm just thinking about how we use chalkboards or paper as a form of gathering information, learning, and of course I also just really like these things. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but it's like I just like these objects too. And I love the green chalkboard, and it makes you think about artists that have used chalkboard, like Cy Twombly, who I really respect and love.
Yeah.
And then I really love Via Selmans and her ability to draw and paint water.
Mm.
So these are some of those references too are in
That's
there for
wonderful,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. But you know, the water is a little more tumultuous now. Our times are more tumultuous, and also the more that I learn about the history of the American and Filipino relationship, it's a lot more active.
Not as peaceful.
Yeah.
It's interesting that use of art history though, because it seems to kind of weave its way through your works in subtle ways. I know the raft is a new piece that you made, and that also has an art historical reference as well, correct?
Yeah, it does. It refers kind of playfully to the Raft of Medusa by Gerigalt. I don't know how you say that, Gerigalt? Yeah. And you know, it's like that piece we all learn about in art history, and then when you look at some of its connections to colonialism and also just the people that died on the boat. And it kind of playfully references that, but not, like, I wasn't really trying to say that this is it, but when I was arranging the bags, it really made me think of that. What?
They do feel like bodies.
Yeah, they feel like bodies. I'm glad. And
So talk a little bit about the rice bags and the references you're making with them.
well, the rice bags are, if you're Southern Californian and Asian, the early days of, you know, the 60s and 70s, they didn't have that many products from, you know, not a lot of products like we do now, like just stores that are devoted to Asian markets, right? So Calrose is actually a California rice, but it's made like a Japanese rice. And so this was kind of the rice that was closest to what we had at home back in the Philippines, I believe. And so we ate this. It's just something that was common for most Filipinos and probably a lot of Asians. So I just kind of like love the packaging of that bag. When we were younger, it was made out of more of like a paper material, and so I wanted to make my bags out of paper, and I just kind of played around with the references that I appropriated. So instead of appropriating the common flour of the botan rice, it's called botan, which is a rose, I made it into a lotus flower, and instead of calling it Calrose, which is what it was originally called, I called it Cal Lotus. And the lotus is partly about just Buddhism and kind of my interest in that as well. And yeah, so there's this text here. That's a script called Babayan script. I don't think I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it is the indigenous script that they found in the Philippines, and that just says rice. Yeah.
Nice. But you do play with language a lot and text. Maybe you can talk about this space and the use of the word kapwa.
Kapwa, okay. Yeah, you know, it's really funny because I don't feel comfortable with language, and yet I do use it a lot, and I think I use it playfully. I use it kind of like I'm appropriating language, and I like to kind of almost make puns with it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not even consciously doing
It's a similar
that.
sensibility to how you use materials and play with scale in that way, I think.
Okay.
You're kind of petty.
So, kapwa means shared being, and it is a term, an indigenous term that's used in the Philippines to talk about a value system that's a really positive value system about community, and also you know, your relationship to the land, each other. And so I like to use it here instead of using the
Maybe
Coca-Cola.
show them how it's very subtly here.
It's
too
really
on the
subtle here, yeah. And I was trying to use it continuously here as almost like a packaging of that value system. And it's using the appropriation of the Coca-Cola font. So, and Coca-Cola.
Your pop sensibility again.
What?
Your pop sensibility.
Yeah, and Andy Warhol for sure. I love Andy Warhol's boxes that he did, his Brillo boxes and stuff. And what else about these? Just that there's like, to me, there's like kind of like water again, so that what happens with that Coca-Cola thing, it becomes a wave. And I think if you could see, there's water kind of, I don't know if you, like, some people don't see that, but I
never noticed that before.
I like that that's kind of, no, you can't unsee it. And so so that's kind of like a recurring kind of graphic that I really like. And
Do you want to talk about the pink boxes too?
Yeah, the pink boxes, you know, somebody asked me, like, you know, did your parents own a donut shop or something? I actually worked at a donut shop when I was in high school. But these are not, to me, about donuts so much as they are about my connection to some kind of Asian culture that I was striving for when I was younger, because we didn't really have a lot of pastry places that were Filipino when we were growing up. And so what was nearest to me and our culture was Chinese bakeries. So these are like, I just love the object of the pink box and its associations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has associations to donuts now, which is yummy.
Just all different bakeries.
Yeah,
I mean,
bakeries,
I have different
yeah.
childhood memories of
Right.
pink pastry boxes that
Yeah.
have different cultural references. you know,
Right.
but-
But there's something really genuinely just joyful about this pink boxes,
It's true,
right?
there was always a treat.
Yeah, you always know. You know you're not going to get something not a treatful. so I'm just like, I love playing with perspective, and so I'm kind of doing that here, and as well as that one there, and then these are kind of like dealing with islands and you know, kind of in a way it's like an idealized island, and yet there's things that are not idealized about it, but like my experience of island culture is so idealized, you know, because
Mhm.
I've lived here.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of like actual trash that I cut up in here, that's like coming, you know, from our environment. So,
Can
okay.
you tell us about the drawings a little bit?
The drawings, they're somewhat the way that I start coming up with ideas a lot of times. So like I did this, and when I did this drawing, it made me think about the Spanish Armada that was sinking. And then this one is just like, sometimes like I'll do that. I did the big crayon, but then I want to like think about how other ways I could do the crayon. And so here I'm thinking about, this is called Lean In. So I'm thinking about how much cultures can basically aspire and look to like the African American community and what they've done for people of color. And here, this is all these books that I was reading, and that sort of just came to me. You know how that happens, where like you'll read one book, and then there's another one that just shows up, and you're just like, oh my God, this is. And that's kind of what happened during this period of time when I was making this body of work. So these are all the titles and stuff of the different books that I was reading at the time. And this actually, you know, this definitely happened before I made that three-dimensional flag.
Yeah, you'll see the flag in the other room shortly.
Yeah. And then these are just newer ones where I'm thinking about ideas. I always wish that I could make the cocktail boxes have real cola. So maybe
You can figure that out.
that's maybe a future piece. And then this is definitely kind of trying to reference the pink box and how I remember it to be a pastry box from the Chinese place.
Yeah.
Because they would have these little strings that would. They had a string machine.
Oh, really?
You know, you put the box there, and then, jing, you know, it would just like tie it for you.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and you know, as a kid, you see those things, and you're just like,
I remember like a gold sticker on it.
oh.
From the bakery. But there's something about the really detailed and precise craftsmanship of your drawings that I think there's an intimacy to them, and I think that also plays into the sense of scale. So even though some things are oversized, some things are quite small, and in that they're like a little like world unto themselves, I guess. I mean, like the island and the way that your sort of attention to detail in the drawings, and maybe you can talk about that with some of these other drawings in here as well.
Okay. Well, I'm glad.
Is there something you wanted to add about? The boxes.
No.
One of the fun things, if you look up here, show the,
Oh,
the really, the sense of perspective.
right.
That was something that you wanted to play with in
Yeah.
the installation too.
Yeah, I added a few more boxes in this installation so that it would go a little deeper. Yeah, I really like playing with perspective and
Because you're really
and
just
space.
a master at drawing. I mean,
You know, somebody told me that most of these things are really coming from drawing,
Yeah, I mean,
and I do
it's-
believe that.
It's sculptural material, but you're treating it like
As drawing,
as-
yeah,
like
that's
a
what people have said,
two-dimensional
yeah. Yeah, this is just I did a series, a trunk series, and it's an ongoing series, I think, forever. And so both of these kind of stem from like making trunks. These like basically cut off sections of trees or people that I've known. And on this one, I was discovering about indigenous culture in the Philippines and their tattoo history, and I thought, well, now it's time to make a trunk that's more self-referential, and it was really a challenging piece to do, and I still don't know if I like this piece.
Oh, really?
It's really challenging to me. I call it an appropriation because I want to respect the culture.
Yeah.
And people that get tattoos like that, they get tattoos done because of what they've done, you know, to receive them for the culture, and a lot of times for the women when they would have them done, they would be like clothing, you know, they were like clothing for them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so this definitely evolved. There's a lot more story to this, but I think that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I am also fascinated by the sort of branch-like element and the relationship to the tree.
Right, you caught that. There's actually, okay, I'll tell you. There's actually, when I was going to originally do this, I saw the image that looks like a tree, like lungs.
Yeah, it
And
looks like that. Yeah.
yeah, and I first was gonna do this, and it was gonna be lungs, but then I went to Cincinnati, and when I visited Cincinnati, there was a tree that was split, and it was just like, oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, it has to be a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's kind of neat because this is like one of two trunk drawings that I have, and yeah, it refers to like tree trunks too, right?
Right.
So this is the palm tree trunk, but I also have like a tree that I grew up with in my mom's house. That's not here in the show, an old one. So yeah, they are like trunks, like
Yeah. And again, these are hung at your body height.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. Let's talk about the installation.
Okay. So I was talking about this installation during that Zoom panel, and this installation has evolved from the original place that I designed it for, which was at the Eagle Rock Art Center. And when we came here and we wanted to use this piece for this show as well, I had to contextualize it, I felt. And so I created this wallpaper so that it would contextualize this piece. And so all the parts of this, it's almost like some of them are like, they're separate parts to me, like this is a single piece, but it's within this installation. And you know, this is to me a separate piece called If These Walls Could Talk. And then all these other elements are also part of the Territorial Pissings installation. I know I'm creating my own like categories instead of like saying, but I am. It's like, because it fits right. Yeah. So these are supposedly for me, they're like rack-sized chairs. The chairs are modeled after the chairs that are in the the Roosevelt Room in the White House. And so I looked up what those chairs looked like, and then I made them and had them created in bronze. And so there are some references to the Roosevelt Room, and it's only in so far as I'm thinking about like an institution, you know, so like, and also like this little painting also is from referencing Theodore Roosevelt's painting in the White House, and so some of this is sort of like about just institutions in general. Some of it is about the idea of American history, and these books are saying things to me that refer to imperialism, and also just kind of some general ideas about how cultures kind of use tactics to oppress. Not necessarily they mean to oppress, but it does. You know?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Do you want to show them a detail
Okay.
of the rat while you're looking?
Yeah, I thought I'd put a
A little bit
put a
about
rat.
the rat. I don't know if you can see it in the video.
Yeah, can you see the rat in there? So there's a graphite drawing of a rat in here, and you know, it just refers to there's
Isn't there a
certain
saying?
kinds of what?
What was a saying you said that?
Oh, you know, Rico knows that more. I actually don't really know that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's just about how there's, you know, underlying tendencies in, you know, certain political tendencies towards.
Well, according to what's on the wall label of Rico, who we should mention is the guest curator.
Okay.
He says that there's a Filipino joke using pictures of ugly people as rodent repellent.
Yeah,
So
okay.
this sort of
Yeah.
derogatory representation
Yeah.
of human
There's
beings.
certain ugliness in our government, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what that refers to. That, you know, that not everybody, but definitely there is that body of people that are there still, and it's incipient, and when somebody can pull that up and breed it in a way. And then this imagery is from this book that I found back in around 2016-17, and it's called The Forbidden Book, Political Cartoons. I think during imperialism, something like that. I forget the name, the title. But it was just pages and pages of articles and cartoons and posters of basically propaganda during the time of American imperialism in the Philippines and also other countries. And so I just appropriated these images. I didn't really change them. I didn't change them except I redrew them. But these images, derogatory images, were in there, and I just reassembled it in a wallpaper style. These images here are from the dollar bill, so a lot of the style is trying to emulate kind of metal plate drawings of the dollar bill.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love learning these new details.
Oh, you didn't know? I thought I told you. And then this flag is like a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper again, but instead it's made out of flag and the holes and stuff. I actually really love this piece. I think it's super quiet, but it's just kind of like the to me, like, you know, how do you distribute a culture, and they did, and that's what happened with America, is they distributed the culture through education, the educational system that they created in the Philippines. So, and it was definitely had a point of view. Yeah.
That's a very diplomatic way.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All
Well,
right.
I think we've done a nice walkthrough of the whole exhibition. You don't need to look at me, but
Okay.
we'll see everyone on Zoom again. And,
Yeah.
and if you have any other questions for Maryrose, you can ask her.
All right. Thank you, guys.